This an all-out blitz, real hard hits, them other podcast trash, we gon' make them all quit. We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you wanna score, but ID gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's, our profession. No complaining, just training, you see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows, we get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast, hosted by the Fan Battle Sports Network. I'm your host tonight, Matthew Briggs, and as always, I got my amazing trio. First off, I got Mr. BT himself. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys?
And always, guys, if you know, he's been my A1 since day one. I got Mr. Crenshaw in the building.
What's the deal?
Guys, we got a special guest in the building. We listen to 97.5 ESPN down there in Houston. You know him very well from the Paul Gallant show. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing good. That intro was fucking awesome. I gotta say, I like the rap. I'm pumped to be here, guys. Let's get it going.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was a group effort. Crenshaw found the music, BT made a video, and I just stayed there and looked pretty. So it looked well. Well, Paul, are you ready to talk some football with us?
Let's do it.
All right, let's kick off with some NFL news. Well, as you can tell, as the headline, you can kick this as NFL news or Texan news. Sadly, we got the reports of Ryan Mallett sadly passing away. BT, you said there's been 13 deaths by rip current since
11 in that panhandle from the Alabama border. So what's happening is the authorities have actually put flags out there. They've actually said, hey, be careful of this, but people are simply they're ignoring the warnings. I'm not saying that happened to Ryan Mallett, not trying to talk ill of the dead or anything, but it is something that anyone who is vacationing there needs to worry about. Pay attention to it. 11 deaths, and that's really just in this past month. So, if people aren't paying attention, that's going to happen a bit more, unfortunately. So I know when you go on vacation, you don't want to throw a day out of your beach day. Trust me, before I moved down to Florida, I was like the same thing. Whenever there was an alert of like, this algae's over here, it happened once, and I was scratching for 3 days. So pay attention to the warnings, guys. It'll save your life.
So, Paul, I'll kick it to you. What was your favorite Ryan Mallett adventure here in Houston?
Well, obviously, it's horrible news because you think of the career that could have been in the NFL and the career that wasn't, and maybe the jokes that we might have had at his expense because of his issues with alarm clock. It was in training camp, or it was before that game against the Miami Dolphins. I will always, though, remember the fun times we had when I was working over at 610. Whenever Mallett made one of those cannon throws of his, we would play the sound effect that they play in Star Wars when the Death Star blew up Alderaan, because he had a cannon for an arm. Wasn't always the most accurate thing. But I remember feeling legitimate hope with him when he first stepped in for Ryan Fitzpatrick in the middle of 2014, thinking, oh, wait, let's see what happens the rest of the way. He gets hurt, and the quarterback carousel continues. That moment in time, I was like, I think they might have something here after that game against Cleveland where he threw for 200, and I think they ran for a team for 200 yards. Alfred Blue was leading the way, I think, for a lot of that. So that's my number one.
Okay. Sadly, at age 35, you never want to hear news like that. Crenshaw, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Paul. The Cleveland game, we threw his first touchdown to J.J. Watt. I thought we had some as well because I was like, well, we can't do no worse. And it went downhill, and that's the same. That's the same year we played the Kansas City in the playoffs, lost 30-0, correct?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the Wildcat from the goal line.
yeah. I don't know what Bill was doing right there. I was hoping that Ryan would have got some burn in that game, but Bill was like, "Oh, Brian Hoyer, you got it." But that was one of the most embarrassing losses I ever seen. That's more embarrassing than the other Kansas City loss that we had. To me, I mean, at home, first play of the game was a kickoff return. Oh my goodness gracious! But yeah, that was my moment right there, Matt.
Yeah, I have to agree with Paul. That dude had a cannon. I know they were always joking around that he can hit the big old what's that Titantron with from the 50-yard line. I probably believe it because that dude was massive arm. Also in sad news, Cedric Killings. He passed away from cancer. He played in 2006 to 2007, 45, I want to say.
Yep.
That's man, cancer sucks. There's nothing else to say except for thoughts and prayers to the family. Paul, do you remember Cedric Killings playing for the Texans
I mean, I know the guy broke his neck.
on a special teams play? Was it not?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a violent sport, and it's sad, to talk about the two of them gone way too soon. And that to say one more thing about Ryan Mallett, and obviously not to, 'cause I'll be honest, I'm not that familiar with Cedric Killings, but I think it was very cool that in the last couple of years, Ryan Mallett had seemed to find a calling as a high school football coach.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I read a story
that's
about
a
that, and
successful one too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they were on their way to being a lot better, and he is somebody that whether it was Tom Brady or a bunch of other people brought up, this is a guy who really loved his teammates, and obviously maybe he wasn't ready to be starting quarterback in the league with the Texans, but I'm happy for him that he was able to find something after football because I think for a lot of guys who play in this league, it's really difficult. And
Tough.
obviously, he was always going to be a legend in Arkansas for what he did in high school there. But I'm glad he had at the very least that, and it's obviously horrible. He's just 35 years old, and I'm sure
Mhm.
there's a lot of kids that looked up to him that he had coached and been, a fatherly figure to over the last couple of seasons. It's just really tragic in both situations.
Most definitely. VT, I kick off to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm like Paul. I don't really remember Cedric Killings a lot. What I will say, it's sad that he had to give up his career early because he fractured his neck. I believe it was a C4, and I was reading about that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known really what the issue was. But on top of him giving up his career early, he was dealing with pancreatic cancer. He lost that battle, so it's just sad all around. We lost two young guys, 35 and 45. It's just horrible to see that. Former Texans, and not just former Texans, former football players, and just human beings. So just a sad day.
Most definitely. Chris.
Yeah, I like I say, if VT would never told me about Cedric Killings, I would never known about Cedric Killings. I'm just keeping it 100 with you, but it's very sad. Cancer and everything. Like my mom had breast cancer and everything, so it's a very sad moment. So prayers to his family.
Yeah, most definitely. We always want to send out good vibes and prayers and thoughts to the family. And like Paul said, the young men that Ryan Mallett wasn't involved with, that's got to be tough. Especially, a lot of my high school memories involved my coaches. They always shaped up, in your life. So it's got to be tough. Well, let's get on to a different topic. Let's get a little bit better topic. QB battles is spreading around the league. The Texans, you got the Colts with AR and Minshew, the Titans with a three quarterback system, the Niners. Paul, what quarterback besides the Texans, what quarterback battle are you excited to see and over with?
Well, it's funny to see what's going on in Tennessee because it seems like to open things up that a guy in Malik Willis who looked like he might be off the actual roster, given the way that they were treating him at the end of last year, that he is ahead of Will Levis on the depth chart makes me chuckle a bit. But of course, you got Ryan Tannehill at the top. I was sure that they would try to move him or something this offseason. So I like it because it's a mess, and I just generally hate Titans fans. I've dealt with a lot of mentions over the years for things ranging from breaking news story about Jake Locker getting benched for Zach Mettenberger to just thinking that it's bullshit that they get to wear the Houston Oilers uniforms and flaunt it in our faces. You're wearing our ex-wife's clothes, sir. You need to stop. So, yeah, I just like that it's messy in Tennessee right now. I'm also a tad nervous that things might work out really well for Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts. He's got Jonathan Taylor. He's got at least remnants of that offensive line. So I'd like to not hear about that one and hear more about the messy one in Nashville.
Yeah, me and BT has been saying this all offseason. If we couldn't get D'Amico and we got Shane Steichen instead, we wanted Anthony Richardson because that guy and Anthony Richardson are going to be extremely dangerous if it all clicks. Kershaw, which one are you excited to see?
Yeah, it got to be Anthony Richardson because I wasn't a fan of his, and VT been like pumping in my ears all off season about this guy, and I think getting Shane it's going to be scary because Jonathan Taylor is healthy this year, and it's going on year 4 for him, correct? It's year 4. Jonathan Taylor, year 4, right?
I think it's year 3.
Year 3?
Yeah.
This will be year 3.
Year 3, okay. So it's still like a contract year for him. So I think he's going to be healthy. I'm very nervous about them because we played on week 2, and I had it as a win, but I'm kind of getting doubts right now that we might lose that game right there. So that's the battle that I'm looking forward to right there.
All right, BT.
Well, the 2 QB battles that interest me the most are Tennessee and the 49ers. And the reason why Tennessee is really for the reason that Paul said, like we thought that Willis was going to get cut, and now he looks like he's going to be the QB2. The interesting thing is that Levis, at least a lot of people thought that he would take over in case Tannehill got hurt. Probably see him when we play him. We play him week 15 and 17. So you think that's probably around the time that Levis would be starting, right? You got the 32nd overall pick. You got to put him in there sometime. But if Willis is beating him in camp, which is what the reports say that Willis is actually surprising people. So if the Titans actually think they got a shot here, they wouldn't throw Willis in. They wouldn't throw Levis in. They're going to stick with Willis, which honestly would be crazy to not have your 32nd overall pick play a snap in the regular season. So I find that very, very interesting. Listen, I'm not hoping for any injuries ever, but I think that Tannehill won't be able to stay healthy. So I think there's a very good shot that we see Willis out there if he remains QB2. The 49ers is interesting because we thought that Brock Purdy may not play at all this season, but he's right now throwing in Florida right now. Well, not this very moment, but you know what I mean? So he is actually going to start, right? If he's healthy. And the funny part there is that just say he's not 100% up to speed. The reports are that Sam Darnold is going to be QB2. So the QB that they spent 3 firsts for is going to be the 3rd string quarterback. And according to Adam Schefter, there wasn't much of a trade value for him. Now that's freaking insane. How does Trey Lance not have any trade value? How is he not even QB2? Sam Darnold is ahead of him. So to me, those are the 2 most exciting QB battles. I think that Richardson takes the job from Minshew. And you're right, Matt. All 3 of you said it, but AR was my favorite quarterback in this class. I said that if we couldn't get AR, that we'd get CJ Stroud. I knew we weren't high on AR, but the combo of Shane and AR does frighten me.
All right. Yeah, I got to agree with Paul. Anything that can make the Titans messy and, cause them to fail, I'm all for it. Bud Adams left a nasty taste in my mouth that would never, ever go away. So, true pause. Very pause. Big pause.
I got a question. How many Houston-based Titan fans do you know? And how many times have you asked them, what the fuck is wrong with you? I do not understand for the life of me how people that are living in Houston can still root for the team. But if you go to NRG Stadium for a Texans-Titans game, and I did when I first moved back here from Seattle late in 2021. I was stunned. I was stunned by the amount of people that were clearly from Houston rolling up to the stadium wearing Titan stuff. Maybe it was because the Titans were actually good that year, but it's just a bad look. Like they left you, and you still like them.
Yeah, it's surprising. I know a lot, and it sickens me. Like, you know, if some of them are family. If they weren't family, I wouldn't be friends with them on Facebook. But, you know, I got to be peaceful. All right. Well, let's go on to the German game. I guess the tickets for the Miami Dolphins and Kansas City Chiefs there in Frankfurt, Germany, sold out in 15 minutes. Paul, I'll kick it off for you again. Are you surprised or?
I'm not surprised because if you got money and you want to go to Germany, I guess this is a fun American way to spend your time overseas. I just hate that there's games overseas. This is supposed to be played in the United States of America. Sorry to sound like a xenophobe or something like that, but come on. We're playing in Germany. We're playing in England. And it seems like every single year we're playing more and more games overseas. Here's the deal. It might actually make sense to play games in Mexico. It might actually make sense to play games in Toronto. Say you want to expand northward or southward to Mexico City or something like that. People are not going to love the NFL overseas the way that we want them to. Sure, there are tons of people stationed across the world that are a part of the United States military. I know there's a lot in Germany and in other places, but I think personally that every single team should get to play all of their games in their home stadium, except maybe the Jaguars, because it's kind of funny that they have to play 2 games in England. But yeah, I'm just bummed out that it seems like one more game every single year is being played out there, and I'm like, this is our game. Why do we have to export it?
I think me and BT agree with you 110%. BT, what do you think?
Paul, this is where I'm going to say I love you, man. I love you, man, because this is what I've been saying forever, and I get so much flack about this. I think it is completely stupid that we keep expanding. I understand the financial reason, but the whole point is that it's American football, and the whole thing is we'll always be second fiddle to soccer everywhere else, right? So to me, the biggest issue is that the NFL is basically the football league where you get the best of the performances. There is no other league in the world where you're going to see better football played. When you have to go internationally, you are getting second part football because traveling is hard. Then you have conditioning. Then you have practices. You have all of these things that you have to go 14 hours here. You are not getting the best football. And every time you increase it, you're getting worse and worse football. It's not just limiting our chances here to see games. It's already expensive. The tickets are already crazy expensive. So now you're limiting the options for people that live here to actually see the games. Now you're actually also watching worse football. It doesn't make any sense to me from a fan perspective, but I understand the financial perspective. You know, you have pretty much maxed out the American market, right? You have more than half of America watching it, so you're not going to get more. So the only way to expand is internationally. Financial perspective, I get it. I think that, you know, the article that talked about was Florio that really posed this question, which I'll ask all of you, which is, do you think that there will be an actual home, like a team that's actually based out of Germany? Because everyone's talking about London, but Germany seems to love football way more than even London. And I unfortunately could see a team being based out of Germany. And how much would you hate it? That's my question.
Paul, I'll let you answer that one first. What do you think?
Well, I'd really hate it a lot. I mean, part of it's because I just think about my grandfather who fought in World War II and how pissed off he would be. This like longshoreman who worked on like the docks in Philadelphia. He would be rolling over in his grave right now over this. But again, at a different time, I think it's going to be really hard to pull that off because you're going to first off need to have a better means of transportation. And as far as I know, the Concorde, the plane that used to fly so quickly over the Atlantic Ocean, is not coming back anytime soon. You're going to need to have some sort of transportation like that, or at least other teams over there to make it, at least at this point in time, make sense logistically. Maybe it happens some point down the road. We figure out a better way to transport ourselves across the ocean. But I think for now, it would be an obstacle from that perspective. It would be an obstacle for whatever team is there to sign free agents. There's some players who would want to play over there, but are they going to want to stay there for a long period of time?
Right.
So I think those are factors. But does the NFL really care about stuff like that? To the point you were making just a moment ago, VT, it's like, hey, they don't really care about the fan that's going to a stadium anymore. They just don't. But they're forcing you to buy preseason games if you go to the regular season ticket route, and those games are a joke. They're just a joke. Now they've changed it so that this year games could be potentially flexed to a Thursday or a Saturday at the last minute. So if you're traveling, that screws you over. Or if you just decided that you were going to go to a game on Sunday and all of a sudden they move it up to Thursday, that's going to make it difficult for you. So the NFL often pisses in the direction of common sense, and they've come out without any on their pants every single time somehow. So I don't think it'll happen, but they've shocked us before.
Most definitely. Chris Hall, what about you? What's your thoughts on it and BT's question?
Yeah, basically, I mean, if any team go over there, it would be the Jaguars. But basically, what Paul said, transportation. That's what I was thinking about. So, the only thing I could think of, all the owners getting together and they share one plane, and each team take that one plane, which it sounds silly, but it'll save them money. That's something I could think of. But yeah, like free agents, they were like, man, Germany is cool to visit, but I don't want to live here, man. It's too far away from my family. Phone calls, the time difference is, I don't want all that. And then I don't like those Germany games because I don't get up that early to watch those games.
Same.
So that's why I don't like them. You know,
Same.
I'm good with the 12 o'clock games, but at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm still asleep.
If Crenshaw, if someone flew me out to cover the game, I mean, I'd be so pumped because I'd finally get to go to Oktoberfest.
True.
But that's literally it. That's the only reason it would be worth going. And I don't want to pay for that. No, it's too expensive.
Yeah, and the hotel is going to be even more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's too much money. I mean, it's already a lot of money go to a domestic game. So you know,
Right.
I mean, Matt, I know you know, VT, I know you know what I'm saying? So that's too much, man.
Yeah, so here's my thoughts on it. Like Frankfurt is like Las Vegas 2.0. You just mentioned Oktoberfest. You got a whole bunch of guys like under the age of 28 and under, and you expect them to behave, you know what I mean? So like that where I was like, man, that's just, you see what's happening in Vegas, you know, guys are getting arrested left and right. That's just, it's kind of look a recipe for disaster. So I maybe London, but I think Frankfurt would be a bad spot. Hopefully for our sake, because I don't, like Chris said, I don't want to wake up until 7 o'clock just to get ready for football.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, so
I was on the West Coast.
And people on the West Coast,
guys.
yes, it's worse for them. You in Syria watching the game.
Oh, people on the West Coast will tell you that it's so great to get up early in the morning and watch football. And I'm like, you know what? It is kind of cool, but I'm sorry. I'm not a morning person. I do a show that's in the morning. I'm still not a morning person. I get up at 5. I'm pounding coffee, trying to wake up for hours and hours and hours. Now I gotta get up on the weekend early. Football, come on.
Yeah, same here. So do not want it. Well, guys, let's get why we're here, and that's the Houston Texans. Paul, I don't know if you noticed it, but me, Crenshaw, and BT all dropped a kind of a YouTube short about what we think is going to happen this year. Mine is kind of, I'm a basic white girl, basically. I said Nico Collins is going to be the wide receiver number 1, have a breakout year. Crenshaw said, this is where it gets a little spicy. Crenshaw said
Devin Singletary
will take the number 1 spot at the running back position. And BT, he went defense and said Jalen Petrie will not just make the Pro Bowl, but an All-Pro. On your opinion, which one do you think is more likely? Which one do you think is going to be more likely to happen? And which one do you think is more interesting?
Okay. So I want Jalen Petrie to be an All-Pro, but I also want him to learn how to tackle better. And I do like him a lot. I think he's got a lot of potential. but you're talking all talking, one of just what 3-4 safeties in the league that we're talking about. So I think that one's unlikely. Crenshaw's Singletary one intrigues me because
okay.
I love Pierce. He runs violently, and that might hurt him, literally. So that could theoretically lead to him paving the way for Devin Singletary to step in there, maybe be the running back at the end of the year. Singletary has been a pretty dynamic back before. He runs for power. He's small, kind of like a poor Maurice Jones-Drew. Maybe not as explosive, but he's just built that small bowling ball style. If you're a linebacker, like imagine trying to see past an offensive line, this little tiny guy that's running around back and forth, back and forth. To your point about Nico Collins, it is such a crapshoot with that number one wide receiver spot. I don't know if they're really going to have a number one wide receiver by the end. So I would say for both, it's Crenshaw. The Singletary idea, that's not one I had thought of, and I'm like, oh yeah, Dameon Pierce is probably going to get hurt at some point. I hope it doesn't happen.
Marion Barber.
Yeah,
that's who you run like, Marion Barber, man.
Rest in peace. Yeah, for sure. All right. BT, have anything to say to that?
Yeah, let me just say why I think Jalen Petrie actually has the best chances of being the first Cassera era All-Pro. There hasn't been an NFL rookie that had 125 tackles and 5 interceptions since the year 2000. So he's damn good. The reason why he had 36 missed tackles is because he's a ball hawk. He's everywhere. He tries to be everywhere. His motor is insane. If we had an actual front seven, an actual pass rush, he wouldn't be having 147 tackles, and you wouldn't have 36 missed tackles. No DB should have 147 tackles. The fact that we had him and Jonathan Owens being the tackle leaders shows you how horrible our front seven was.
Jonathan Biles.
Jonathan Biles, yes. Mr. Biles. That shows you how bad our front seven actually was. We should have a much better pass rush. I don't think it's going to be dominant or anything, but it should be much better with Will Anderson, Sheldon Rankins. But yes, Jalen Petrie is him. And the thing is that once he is no longer having to just run everywhere because he actually has some help, right? Now he has Jimmy Ward on the other side too. That I think that the missed tackles situation gets a bit more resolved. I think it should be, definitely under 20, but hopefully under missed double digits. So let's hope that part goes away. But I think that he actually has a chance within a D'Amico Ryan scheme to actually get more picks too, and more pass deflections. He had 8 pass deflections too. So it's not like this guy helped in the run, this guy helped in the pass. The dude was just everywhere. He honestly is my favorite player on their team right now. I know a lot of people either say CJ Stroud or Dameon Pierce, which I understand obviously, but there is something about Jalen Petrie that makes me think that this guy could eventually be one of the best defensive backs in the league. And I'm being serious.
The only way he makes All-Pro if the Texans have a good record. He had an All-Pro season last year and didn't make All-Pro. So how can he top that? He was
in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I agree. The big problem about All-Pro and being Pro Bowls is it's a popularity game. Like he should have definitely been at least a Pro Bowler last year with the season he had. But I think that we will win 7 games, and so he gets in that conversation.
He got to make some noise, and we don't have no primetime games for people to see him as well. So that's what's going to hurt him right there.
And there's other name brand safeties that he's going to have to beat out, which, hey, it's possible, but it's Derwin James, it's Minka Fitzpatrick, it's Budda Baker, although Budda Baker may be less so because Budda Baker's situation that's actually worse than
the guy in Denver, what's his name?
Justin Simmons.
Yeah. So it's a lot. And those guys are already out on the scene.
In the AFC South, Kevin Byard, I mean, he's always I hope you're right, BT. I hope you're right. Well, let's stick on the topic of defensive backs. Paul, have you been watching this drama of Steven Nelson unfold?
I saw. Now,
go ahead.
He has a point. You got to be a real fucking psycho to wear a vest in April, May, June, July, August, and most of September, right? So I saw it. I tweeted out in response to Landry bringing it up last night, maybe this is a guy that's a surprise cut. I'm not predicting that'll happen, but you take a look at all the Texans players that have cap figures that would save a lot of money if they are released. Christian Kirksey is the one that makes the most sense. It's north of $5 million. Nelson, it's slightly less than $4 million. And it's a crowded cornerback room. Shaquille Griffin is someone that I covered in my little stint up in Seattle for a couple of years. And when Griffin was playing in a defense that actually made sense for him, and I'm not saying D'Amico Ryans and Pete Carroll's defenses are that similar, but there are some similarities with the way that they play. Griffin was really good. Like Pro Bowl adjacent, maybe not quite there, like Pro Bowl alternate we're talking about in that situation. But if he's healthy, I think he could be some real competition for Steven Nelson. And I would tell anybody that's negotiating a contract, unless you are awesome, this is probably not the best way to go about negotiating for a new deal. I was talking with my buddy DJ Bien-Aimé of ESPN a little bit earlier. We do a Texans podcast together for ESPN Houston, and there's going to be an episode dropping later where we talk about this, where he brought up that, well, this is just the way that Steven Nelson is. I guess from what his team is looking for, he wants something like a 2-year, $16 million deal. He showed up to the offseason stuff. Caserio hugged him, and D'Amico Ryans asked him how much he wanted to be paid. So this could just be a very hostile negotiating move, and maybe all is fine. But I have been thinking about a lot of possibilities as to what's next, because it's a rather aggressive move to say that you're crazy if you wear a vest. It was a clear shot at Caserio.
Right. The guy who literally signs your paycheck. Like, he's the one that has all the cards in his hand. Crenshaw, what about you, man? I know you been eating your hot flame so are you going to get spicy with it?
Well, that's not the first time somebody asked Nick about that vest. When they had the season ticket deal, one holder said, how many of those vests do you have? Because he think he wear the same vest over and over again. So he should be used to that question by now. But yeah, I mean, it kind of remind me of Dante Robinson, Pay Me Rick on the shoe and everything. So it kind of remind me of that right there. But they didn't pay him; they ended up trading him, right? So it might not be a good look, but I mean, he played very well last year. I mean, he was our best cornerback. I hope he stays on the team, but like you said, Paul, it could be a surprise cut, and I would hate that because Griffin, he's still coming off the injury. I'm not for sure he's going to be 100% healthy. So
totally true.
I hope he can text Nick and say, I'm sorry. Hey, I was tripping, and they can squash that and get the guy paid, man. Pay these players. We got the money.
Well, a lot of Texans podcasts like to copy some of the stuff we do. I hope Steven Nelson doesn't watch this and copies Crenshaw's idea and wears a vest at training camp that says, "Pay me, Nick." I know you want that. That'd be.
Hey, he's stylish. Right. If you've ever seen Steven Nelson after a game, the guy wears some bomb Hawaiian shirts. I'm a big Hawaiian shirt guy. So
like the
Nelson
Rock.
seems like the kind of guy who would do it. And I hope he listens to you, Crenshaw. I think he should do that. That would be sick.
Come on, Nelson Island. Let's do it, baby.
BT, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all right, I have a couple problems with this. One is that he wants a contract extension. But the thing is, if he wanted to get paid on his second year, he could have said, hey, just give me a 1-year deal. Give me a prove deal. I can prove myself and I'll get a better deal the second year. No, him and his agent decided to get a 2-year deal. All right. Now I can even understand that, hey, you think you outperformed your contract and you want extension. All right. You got David Mulligata as your agent. All right. Let your agent do your job. Calling out the general manager, saying you can't trust a motherfucker that wears a vest every day, ain't gonna get this shit done. And then on top of that, this is the only thing that people are necessarily talking about. But if you looked at his tweets the whole night, he looked like he was taking shots at everyone. I think he took a shot at Laramie Tunsil. He talked about, what about these dudes that have nose rings and long earrings? Well, guess who wears that? That's Laramie Tunsil. So now you're throwing a shot at arguably the best player, that the most paid player on the team at the same time. What is wrong with you? And the thing is, I think he's just jealous, right? Because right after Laramie got his extension, he tweeted out, "I'm next." And I think when he said that I can't trust a motherfucker, I think he's saying that he had some sort of conversation where they said, "Hey, if you do well, we'll extend you." And now he's saying that, "Hey, you didn't abide by your end of your bargain." But in all reality, he was good, but he wasn't fantastic, right? Did he outplay his contract so much where we are forced to extend him? I mean, Shaquille Griffin could potentially pick up exactly where he left off. He wasn't like he was fantastic out there.
But who was
And
better
the
than
whole
him?
thing is that,
Who was better than him though?
I mean, just because we didn't have better players at the time doesn't mean that's why we should keep him. Who is better than Christian Kurski? Should we keep him? I mean, that doesn't say much. Last year our squad was shit. So I don't care just because he was
but it was shit, and he came and played every game. He could have nailed it in. He could have nailed it in, but he came out there and played. Right?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Looking at the cornerback, stat wise rankings, Steven Nelson was like, I think 39th or something like that, and the person right behind him was Desmond King. I mean, not in the whole NFL. So I mean, Desmond King's gonna fit in a better scheme than Lovey. So that could be the guy who takes it. We all know he's not a number one shutdown corner or number two, more of a slot corner, but who knows? I mean, like I've been saying, scheming fixes everything. And D'Amico Ryans is a hell of a schemer. So, I mean,
right. I mean, they got some options. You could theoretically move Jimmy Ward to nickel corner because he was playing a little bit of that last year too. So there's a lot of flexibility in the secondary right now, which is great. I mean, this is the strength of the Texans at this point in time. But I think Steven Nelson has to realize that. Now, to what you were saying a little bit ago, VT, about like, hey, he's mad about other guys getting paid. Well, I think he's a little bit justified with a couple. One, look, Shaq Mason, I grew up a Patriots fan. I am a Patriots fan still. Shaq Mason is a guy that we've seen play well before, but he's coming off of technically his worst season per Pro Football Focus. Again, that's not an end all be all. I'm too lazy to study offensive line play. I'm just saying that is, at least for that website, he's not coming off of one of his best seasons. He got an extension before he's even played a snap with the Texans. And on top of that, look, I know a lot of people like Malik Collins. The Texans front seven has been garbage for the last couple of years. I don't know that Malik Collins is the reason for that. But Malik Collins got an extension as well. And if you're Steven Nelson, you played very well at that position. And it doesn't seem like you're asking for a lot of money, too. It's not like he's asking for like $30 million or something like that. He's asking for like 2 years and 16. And I would imagine a lot more of that money being guaranteed so that it's more of a 2-year contract than a 1-year contract, because a lot of these contracts are so much funny money. So that would be the devil's advocate argument I would make, or if I were Steven Nelson's agent, pay me, Steven. That is the argument that I would make.
Hey, not bad at all, right? So, anything else, BT, before we?
Yeah, I'll just say one thing. And all right, so you want to get more money, like I said, that's fine. But the thing is, there are multiple ways to go about it. Now, what this tells me is that his agent, which is David Malagueta, is not getting the extension, right? Because if you're getting success, if you're on your way to being successful in negotiation, you wouldn't call out the general manager. You wouldn't call out our star left tackle. You wouldn't be talking about other players. It was all night long. The other tweet, I swear to God, he must have had the whole bottle of whiskey last night. He was talking about Ryan Mallett saying, you guys think I'm playing out here? Like, why are you quote tweeting the death of Ryan Mallett when you're talking about your extension? I mean, the dude just seemed off the wall. In my opinion, this is classic vampire. You know what D'Amico Ryan said, right? Guys that steal your energy. He's a vampire. Yeah. He's an energy vampire. I think that if they don't smooth this over the next couple of days, he might be out of there on the trade block, getting a 6th-round pick or something for him, and be out of here. We are not in a position to take locker room cancers. We're hanging on by a thread. We're going to go through our 4th consecutive losing season. I think we all need to be honest with where the Texans are. And I think that, yeah, we can win 7 games, but we're still going to be under 500. Do we want a locker room cancer that's going to be bitching and moaning because he didn't get an extension and that we're not having a winning season? Fuck that, man. No. Get the hell off my squad.
Maybe he was hacked.
You know, a lot of people used to blame bad tweets on Ambien not too long ago. So could have been an Ambien tweet, huh? That's what I'd use. It's my excuse. Again, Steven Nelson, pay me.
Right. I mean, he does have a wine farm called Nelson Farm. So I mean, BT BT might be right. Who knows? Before we move on, quick rapid fire question. Package deal, Steven Nelson, 4th round pick to the Ravens for Queen. Are you doing it?
I don't think Baltimore would take it, but
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, I look, they need linebackers. And while I like the direction, I like what we saw from Christian Harris the second half of the year. The guy whose name I'm always too scared to pronounce in the 5th round that they drafted out of Alabama too.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Look, there's more, but I want more. I feel like the more linebackers, the easier it's going to potentially be for a defensive line, especially with some of the things that they're going to try to do.
Okay. Crenshaw, BT, would y'all take it?
I mean, I think I'd take it in a heartbeat, but the thing is, there's no way the Ravens would do it.
Right.
I mean, I know we got to pay Patrick Queen, but I mean, listen, we are kind of short on linebackers. Yes, we got some obviously in the draft, but they're unproven. Queen is proven. Now, he probably won't be the Mike either, but I take him on the strong side, right? I mean, I think that's probably the best where you could use him. Harris continues on the weak side. But yeah, the Ravens would never do that.
Yeah, they'll laugh at us.
Yeah.
How about Christian Kirksey for Justin Jefferson?
I
love trades like that.
Those are those Madden, Madden trades, right?
4 straight override. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I wish we do that in real life. That'd be fantastic. All right. Well, Paul, this is the favorite part from the fans. This is where we get to ask you a couple questions.
Cool.
Are you down with it?
Let's go.
All right. So who is Paul Gallant? I am going to kick it off with VT.
So I got to ask if you could talk about the Steven Nelson situation in your Tucker Paulson character. And I know it's on the spot improv. It may only be a sentence, but I got to hear something about what Tucker Paulson would say about the Steven Nelson situation.
Okay, so for those who are unaware, I do a really shitty Tucker Carlson impression.
No, it's actually really good.
Thank you for saying that.
Come on. I was about to say, come on.
It is literally me mocking a stand-up comedian who mocks him. Essentially, it all stems around wrapping things up by saying, what is happening? What is going on? And then blaming something on Biden or some other left-leaning person. So let me think here. Steven Nelson plays America's game for a living. Honestly, he should be playing the sport for free, teaching America's youth that it's not about the money, it's about teamwork, camaraderie, friendship, the American way. But Steven Nelson doesn't want that. Now Steven Nelson is promoting a lifestyle without vests. I know that I wear a vest in the winter when it's cold outside so I don't get a cold. What is happening? What is going on? Steven Nelson is teaching America's children that they should disobey authority and go get sick and cold outside.
Oh, that was great.
Incredible.
Yeah, you're selling yourself short on that one, Paul. You do a great job. Crenshaw, what about you?
Okay, you've been grinding everywhere. Right now you're on ESPN 97.5. But previously you was in Seattle. You was on 610, and I think you did Channel 57, I believe.
Cube, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I was right. Okay.
I can see it from my window right here. I live right next to it. Weird small world. Doesn't exist anymore. RIP.
Okay, so what is one of your best moments from any one of those jobs that you had, or could you tell us something that we don't know from that job that wasn't on air?
Okay. Well, there's a couple. Now, the reason I started doing the Tucker Carlson thing is because when I lived in Seattle, I lived in the autonomous zone. I changed my mind about the autonomous zone, but I never tweeted about it. And the next thing I know, all of right-wing media pounced on me. I was getting death threats and hate mail for like weeks. It was insane. If you're bored, look up Paul Gallant, chill, DAWD. I had a lot of fun with it. I wish that I was allowed to have more fun with it because I don't take myself seriously at all. I'm an idiot that talks about sports for a living. But if you want a sports one, my first day ever reporting on an Astros game. Now, this was when they sucked. This is, I want to say...
The Astros, huh?
this was when it was 2012, right? Like there's not even light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember while working at 610, I was tasked with my first ever reporter's assignment. I'm driving on the way to the stadium. I accidentally like bumped into somebody in front of me, pulled over to the side of the road. We talked. The person's like, "You have a piece of shit car. It's fine." I keep on going in. I get to the ballpark. I'm kind of stressed. I'm like, why the fuck am I here doing pregame show coverage of an Astros and Marlins game? But Ozzie Guillen, who was then the manager of the Miami Marlins, had been suspended by baseball a couple of weeks before for saying in a Spanish magazine interview that he loves Fidel Castro, which for anyone who's aware about Miami's demographics, it's a stupid fucking thing to say, even if you are joking. Because Miami is largely Cuban expats, many of whom are descended from people who actually fled from his regime there. So when I look at him, I realize nobody had asked me follow-up questions since the suspension. So I just asked him, "Hey, man, have things cooled down back for you in Miami?" I was a little nervous asking the question. My heart's racing a little bit. And he said, like, "What?" And I asked the question again about what you said last month. What I say last, and he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, about Castro, and I'm starting to sweat. He looks at me and he goes, "Grow the fuck, motherfucker! Are you kidding me? What the fuck kind of question is that?" And I'm like, but I'm laughing because I'm like, I can't believe Ozzie Guillen just swore at me. So I walk away. He says, "Nice try, kid," and I'm laughing. I go up into the press box afterwards thinking, okay, this is a pretty good day for me. I'm going to get a little publicity out of it. I'm like nobody at this point in time. And this guy comes up to me wearing an MLB polo. And I'm like, is this guy security? Am I about to get kicked out of the ballpark? What the fuck's about to happen? This guy gets up to me and he starts just yelling at me. He's like, "You knew exactly what you were doing with that question. How dare you? You make a mockery of this industry, blah, blah, blah." And I'm just like, well, my boss is right next to me. So I'm like, okay. I was waiting to get taken out of the press box. Turns out that this guy was named Richard Justice, who was a sports writer locally in Houston for a really long period of time. And I still have beef with him over that. But anyway, I guess that's maybe my most fun story. I had many interactions with Bill O'Brien over the years that were sometimes tad hostile. It's been fun. I've been being here. Most of my fun experiences happened here in Houston. That's for damn sure.
Right, it's the best city of all time.
Hell yeah.
So I am the chef of the show and the fatty. I love to eat. So I always base my questions off of food. Seattle or Houston? If you had to eat to save your life, which city are you eating at?
There's only one thing. What the hell's my cat doing? Oh, yeah, there's only one thing that Seattle has on Houston, because I think Houston is the best food in the country. And I grew up in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is pretty good seafood. That's pretty much it. They tried to do Mexican food up there. It's awful. I lived in Florida. There's some nice things in Florida. Publix is good subs to HEBS grocery store there. Key lime pie, amazing. Syracuse, New York is terrible. Never go there. Seattle has really good donuts. And I know everyone swears by Shipley's here, but I'm telling you, Seattle donuts are the best donuts I've ever had, and I was shocked by how good they were. But outside of that, Houston has incredible Asian food. And there's some good Asian food in Seattle, but not a ton of good Asian food. I'd say specifically like ramen places, Japanese places that they have up there. Houston has, I think, the best barbecue scene. I think it has the best Mexican scene. I mean, shit, I go to El Tiempo far too much. It's the margaritas for me. There's no comparing. I really do think pound for pound, Houston has the best food in the country, the biggest range. You are looking for any kind of food. It could be Indian, Middle Eastern, any sort of Asian food, Vietnamese food. This is the place to be. It's a place where you can definitely pack on the pounds really quick if you're not careful.
So did they have any kolaches up there in Seattle?
No, they don't. And I'm told that the best kolaches are at Hrushka's, which is on the way to Austin on 71. And I've also been told by one of my favorite listeners that if you get the kolache that's the hot dog version, that's not a real kolache. The real kolaches have fruit in them. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the hot dog ones, but the fruit ones are pretty damn good.
So I live up here in Kansas City, and it's terrible. Like you said, Houston has by far the best barbecue scene. People up here
Is
try
it
to murder
bad
me.
up there?
I'm not a fan of it, but I mean, I wouldn't say it's the worst. I would say maybe top four. Behind Memphis and Houston, Carolina, even
Carolina. Yeah.
Carolina. I was not a fan of it. So, but they never heard of a kolache. I was like, hey, you have any kolaches? They're like, in English, please. I'm saying I am a kolache. Do you have one? So
Wow, they don't even have it. Damn.
yeah, it's
Hey, I got a question about Seattle. Where are they fans at? Is it mostly in Seattle, or is it Oregon? Is it Canada? Where are they fans coming from?
They're from right outside the actual city itself. Because I think, Crenshaw, what you're hinting at is that there's a lot of out of town folks that come. I mean, I was one of them. And I would say a lot of the ones that live in the interior city, it's gotten so pricey now. Those are largely people that are working in tech. And those people go to the games because these tickets have gotten really expensive over the years. But it's generally from the suburban areas where Seattle starts to transition from
Tacoma or something like that, right?
Tacoma's a great example of it. There's Auburn. There's a bunch of names are forgetting off the top of my head. There used to be some sort of acronym to describe the Seahawks fans that don't live in Seattle, because a lot of Seattle people are like, these people are the absolute heathen trash because they're just absolutely crazy at the games. But look, that home field advantage, I tell you what, the first game I went to, it was a Thursday night football game between the Seahawks and Rams. It was early 2019. Russell Wilson played an incredible game, had some of the most beautiful passes I've ever seen to Tyler Lockett specifically. Still pissed the Texans weren't able to get Tyler Lockett. Fucking Jalen Strong, because the Seahawks traded up in front. No offense to Jalen Strong. They could have had Tyler Lockett. But sorry, tangent. It was so loud that whole game. The Seahawks win on a missed field goal at the end, and it's a really cool place to go. I'm envious of anybody who would have had a long day, because you're probably watching the Astros in the World Series later that day. But that crazy build-up to the Texans-Seahawks game in 2017, where you're not even sure if they're going to play. You thought they might stage a mutiny because DeAndre Hopkins heard what Bob McNair had said, at those NFL meetings talking about anthem protests. And they go out there and they just played an incredible game. And it just sucks so much that Deshaun Watson got hurt like a couple of days later and tore his ACL. Different time with Deshaun Watson, a different mindset on him. But anyone who went up to that game as a Texans fan, I think had a good time. That's a great place to watch football.
Yeah, like I said, I live up here in Kansas City, so every time the Texans, come, I hate going there because
Too loud.
The atmosphere is just. I mean, it's great for Chiefs fans, but like you say, if you're a Texans fan, especially that year we lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, but we beat them in same year in the season.
Yeah.
I went to that game. And I thought I was gonna get hung. Like I thought people were gonna murder me. Like how like they're just yelling, "How dare you?" And I'm just sitting there pointing at the scoreboard. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing at the scoreboard. It's like
all you could do.
Yeah, like hey, look, ain't my fault. But
don't.
They got the last laugh, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. BT, Crenshaw, any last questions before we end this?
I got one last question. If your life was a real movie and whenever you walked into a badass scene, you would pick a song that represented you, slow motion walking, flames behind, what
Cars
song would that
exploding.
be?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Okay, well, there's options here. There's a bunch of AC/DC songs that I'd love, but if I'm being true to myself, people don't appreciate Creed. They don't.
Some dad rock. All right.
They don't appreciate Scott Stapp.
Right.
I don't know if it would be Take Me Higher or My Sacrifice or One Last Breath, which is kind of a depressing song. Probably be Take Me Higher, the riff. Yeah. Probably be that one.
All right.
Good answer. Chris, I got a question for him, or
No, that's about it. I mean, I would say this. You probably one of my favorite guests we didn't had since we've been doing this show. We've been doing the show
Thank
for a
you.
while. I love your energy and everything. And, you always got a smile on your face, and
Thank you.
I like that right there. So I had to say that before you got off the show.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'm entirely powered by caffeine. I drink way too much of it, and yeah, that's. But
Yeah.
thank you. I mean, you don't have high energy doing this for a living. Like shit. Find a new fucking job. It's too fun doing what I do.
Yes. Well, we don't get paid for it, but we love doing this. So
I can tell. I love this. I love what
Hey.
you guys are doing, and
Yeah.
I love it especially when VT starts trolling the fuck out of people. That's my favorite. I have enjoyed that so much.
Paul, you'd be surprised. That's how we get like half our guests is BT arguing with people. Like he argued with James Palmer, Ron Hughley. Like he's argued with half our guests, and he's like, Chris. This is where Chris comes. And he's like, hey, why don't you just come on the show and let's talk about
Good
it.
cop,
All
bad
right, let's
cop.
do it. Yeah, exactly.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
It works.
But people ask us all the time, like, man, how do you get these wonderful guests? BT just badmouths them until they, until they tap out and they come on the show. So,
That's awesome.
But yeah, Paul, we're definitely gonna have to do this again with you. It was
Please, anytime. I don't have
fantastic.
anything to do. I'm gonna hang out in the cat.
Fantastic. All right, well, Paul. In the wise words of Crenshaw, this is the worst part of the show because this is where it ends. Why don't you tell everybody where we can find your wonderful stuff and on social media?
Well, I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. I sometimes do a podcast, but it's very rare that I actually do it because I'm lazy. But you should listen to my radio show, which you can hear every single day from 10 to noon, weekday from 10 to noon, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Has a show podcast as well if you're into that. I post clips from the show on my YouTube channel afterwards. I have a TikTok. I don't know how I have any followers on it because I feel like an old person whenever I'm on it. But pretty much just search Gallant Says on anything. You'll find me. Just look for the super white guy with massive eyebrows. That's probably me. And guys, thank you. I had a blast, and I would love to do this again.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you do your impersonation on TikTok, it's going viral. So that's all you need to do. BT, where we can find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Brown Chubby Bear. Like we've been saying, I love talking ball and I love arguing about Texas football. I'm on Spaces multiple times a week. Come and find me. You can find my latest article about Jalen Petrie on our new website, fanbattlesports.com. Check that out. And me and Leo do an after-hour show, which we'll do another one tomorrow. I don't know whether we're going to do a Zoom or Space, but follow our socials if you want to be part of that.
And follow us on OnlyFans to find
Yep, OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Subscribe now. Crenshaw, what about you?
You can find me at Fit for Crenshaw everywhere.
And you cannot find them on OnlyFans, so don't let
Yeah, not on OnlyFans.
yeah.
Only VT and Leo.
Yeah. Pause. You can find me at A1 Day 1 Texans and on the fanbattlesports.com website where you can find some great articles for me, myself, and BT. I don't know why I said me, myself, but, let's go with it. And then you can find the show Texans Fan Battle everywhere. Guys, until next week, have a wonderful day. And again, Paul, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate
Anytime.
it.
This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown. We not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you